The 1984 South Carolina Gamecocks created a very special magic. When the season kicked off, few experts would have predicted that USC would have soared to a top 10 ranking in the national polls and received an invitation to play Oklahoma State in the prestigious Gator Bowl. Few players and fans would have dreamt of the stunning victories that were about to follow. Even second-year head coach Joe Morrison was not expecting to reach any summits. Before the season started, Coach Morrison said, "We don't have any sort of predictions. That's a guessing game. But I think with the proper attitude, hustle, and growing confidence, we'll be a better football team this season." How much better, no one knew. But 1984 turned out to be a magical season of success. A special black magic took control of South Carolina's fate this season, and when it was all over, the fans, coaches, and players were under its spell. The 1984 season was capped with the Gamecocks playing before a record-breaking crowd of 82,138, jamming the Gator Bowl in Jacksonville, Florida, and a national TV audience. In a hard-fought battle, the Oklahoma State Cowboys narrowly edged the Gamecocks 21-14. But South Carolina had proven a point that was obvious the entire season. The men in garnet and black were a team that had no limits on the goals that it could achieve and the excitement that it could generate. In Jacksonville, some of the players, along with Coach Morrison and athletic director Bob Markham, took time out to relax on a pleasant boat trip and talk about the 1984 season.
For one reason or another, each ball game was a big ball game for us. And again, it was such exciting, it was such a pleasure to see how our young men handled winning, handled the pressure, handled the attention, and they did it very, very well. And
I think that he and his coaching staff have helped us to believe in ourselves. They expect a lot out of us. In return, we expect a lot out of ourselves, and they've helped us to develop an attitude that we do believe in ourselves. We have confidence in one another, and I think that's so important because you can't be successful unless you have confidence in the guys that you're playing with and playing around. We have confidence in each other now, and we expect to win, whereas maybe 3 years ago, we didn't know if we could win, but now we do expect to win anytime we step out on the football field. So I think attitude is what's really made a difference in this football team.
The attitude that Coach Morrison instilled in his players was simple and direct. Be the best that you can possibly be. With a fighting spirit worthy of the Gamecock name, and with the undying support of hundreds of thousands of loyal fans, the USC players approached the season with the confidence of a winner.
We have the better team, and it's going to really depend on which team really want to get down there eyeball to eyeball, teeth to teeth, and toe to toes, and really get dirty. So it's going to be a good one.
The 1984 season opened with South Carolina hosting the Citadel. Running back Raynard Brown thought that he had a touchdown on this play, but the officials ruled that he had stepped out of bounds. Brown marched into the end zone again, this time putting the season's first 7 points on the scoreboard. The defense flexed some muscle and gave the visitors a taste of the fire ant philosophy. Number 30 added 7 more points to give South Carolina a 14-7 halftime advantage. The third quarter was highlighted by the Allen Mitchell to Ira Hillary aerial circus. The Citadel, however, was playing tough, and it took some black magic to break a 24-24 tie. With 1 minute and 2 seconds remaining in the game, running back Quentin Lewis threw a perfect pass to Chris Wade. touchdown play put South Carolina ahead 31-24. But there still was too much time on the clock. The last Citadel scoring attempt was stopped by this brilliant interception by Otis Morris. The game had been closer than expected, but being 1-0 was a great way to start the season. After taking off a week, the Gamecocks returned to play Duke. The Fire Ant defense was fired up. After holding the Citadel to under 100 yards rushing, the Fire Ants were just as unrelenting in the airways. Alan Mitchell sprinted around right end in the second quarter for a touchdown. And then Raynard Brown added 7 more points on this run late in the first half. In the second half, safety Bryant Gilliard started his tally of interceptions for the season. With 7 defensive starters returning from the 1983 season, the Fire Ants were playing like seasoned veterans. Duke was powerless in their attempt to move the ball and were held to a meager 50 yards rushing the entire game. When Alan Mitchell hit Eric Poole in the end zone to increase the game-winning score to 21-0, it marked the first time that the Blue Devils had been shut out for the past 50 games. Of special interest to Gamecock fans was the appearance of number 7 late in the game. Many fans were unfamiliar with the name Mike Holt, but that was going to change very soon. The first major test of the season was the 12th-ranked Georgia Bulldogs. The offense found the groove in the first quarter behind the running of quarterback Alan Mitchell. Scott Hagler split the uprights to make the score 10-3. Led by All-American linebacker James Seawright, the Gamecocks were popping pads.
Well, I guess the most that I can remember about that game was the great hit that Seawright made on the running back from Georgia. It came at a very important down. In that game, we're trying to control first down so that we could do what we wanted to do on other remaining downs. So Seawright came in and stroked him a few times. Great hits. I guess that was the most things that I really remember about that game.
If I can remember correctly, I think it was they was running inside play, and I was supposed to went to the outside, but I was ready to keep pretty fast. I went inside, and that was a pretty good hit. I mean, it was like a solid hit. You know, it was the kind you always dream of getting. You know, getting to a back. And sometimes I go back and I think about it a lot of time, but then I look at those I missed and wish I had a chance at that. So it's a good hit.
Paul Vogel recovered a fumble to stop a Bulldog drive. And then defensive backs Joe Brooks, Chris Major, and Earl Johnson came up with the big plays. The Fire Ants may not be the biggest defensive unit in college football, but the coaching staff was molding them into one of the most fearsome.
Coach Gadd came up with the concept of the Fire Ant defense, and we've always believed in a very aggressive pursuing style of play, and he just took it one step further where they all were in the same frame of the film. That's what he wanted and expected of them. And over the course of the year, they really have developed a lot of pride about swarming and getting to the football.
After Alan Mitchell had to leave the game with an injured funny bone, number 7 again made an appearance. The rest is history. After taking only 7 varsity snaps in his career, the pressure was on Mike Holt to break a 10-10 tie. A stunning 62-yard bomb to Ira Hillary set up the winning play. Mike Hold's second effort plunge over the goal line put the Gamecocks ahead 17-10. The defense held tough for the remaining 8 minutes, and the offense was able to gain some important first downs. The clock ticked down to 0 on one of the greatest victories in South Carolina history. The Black Magic had woven its spell for another heart-throbbing victory. The Gamecocks were now 3-0. And it raised enough eyebrows to break into the UPI top 20 with a 20th place ranking. Coach Morrison gives his assessment of the game.
Well, I think the Georgia ball game was a big game for us at that particular time of year. It seemed like every ball game, for some reason or another, was a big ball game for us. But we went out ahead of the University of Georgia, and we had them at home. We have 31 or 32 people on our roster from the state of Georgia, and certainly that was a big incentive for them to win the football game. And they came back and tied the ball game up, and then Mike Hold hit Ira Hillary with a long pass, and we got it in the touchdown, or got it in the end zone. And then our defense played very well, particularly in the fourth quarter, and just kind of shut them down a little bit.
When the Kansas State Wildcats came to play the following weekend at Williams-Brice Stadium, they had no idea what a long afternoon it was going to be. South Carolina exploded for 21 points in the first quarter and didn't stop until they had racked up an impressive 49 points on the day. Thomas Dendy had a dandy day, scoring 2 touchdowns. And Chris Corley, Eric Poole, Kent Haygood, Mike Hold, and Jerry Dunlap each added a touchdown. The Gamecocks ran up nearly 500 yards of total offense and only left the field to give their defensive friends a turn in the spotlight. And when the defense was out on the field, they looked lean, mean, and hungry as they blocked 2 punts and held Kansas State to 82 yards passing. The 49-17 romp put USC at 4-0, its best start since 1928. The last of 5 consecutive home games saw South Carolina tame the Pitt Panthers. The Panthers, picked in the preseason to be national contenders, had lost 4 out of 5 games, while the Gamecocks, unheralded at season start, were flawless. In the first half of the game, it looked as if the Panthers might be good enough to win, but Carolina built a 21-14 halftime lead into a 45-21 massacre. And the Fire Ants added to the Panthers' woes by forcing 2 interceptions, 2 lost fumbles, and forced Pitt to punt 8 times. 73,100 fans packing the stadium, being under the spell of that old black magic and watching the points pile up was the perfect way to spend a Saturday afternoon. Before a rain-soaked crowd in historic Notre Dame Stadium, the Gamecocks gave a lesson in determination and courage. Alan Mitchell scored in the first quarter while the defense held the Irish scoreless. In the second quarter, Mike Holt engineered a brilliant drive down the field, hitting tight end Chris Corley for a 31-yard gain, and then handing off on the option to Kent Haygood for the score. Notre Dame went into the locker room with a 17-14 lead. In the third quarter, the Irish widened their lead to 12 points. However, the fourth quarter was something quite different. After trying to get into the swing of things for 45 minutes, the Gamecocks finally shifted into high gear. Mike Holt punched it over from the 2, and Kent Haygood ran in the 2-point conversion. Paul Vogel made a beautiful interception, and Glenn Woodley stopped the Irish runner in his tracks. Then Mike Holt hurt his knee, and Gamecock fans held their breath.
Mike came limping back to the huddle. He'd hurt his knee, and us guys in the huddle suggested that maybe he leave the field and bring Allen in, because it looked like he was hurting pretty bad, and he was having trouble walking up to the line of scrimmage. He was walking with a bad limp. And then 2 plays later, he's scrambling around and he breaks a 33-yard touchdown run. So I think that sort of showed what kind of determination was going around that day, that we were determined to win that football game. We had to score 22 points in the fourth quarter. And he was very determined on that run, and he got a great downfield block from Eric Poole. Seemed like that everybody was willing and able to do whatever it took to win that football game, and I think Mike running that touchdown run with a bad knee was just an example of the determination that we had that day.
That determination inspired every player wearing the garnet and black. Rick Rabune recovered a fumble, and the offense, led by a great Quentin Lewis run, put another 7 points on the board. James Seawright and Earl Johnson made big defensive plays late in the game, as South Carolina earned a thrilling 36-32 come-from-behind victory. It was a win that'll be remembered for years to come.
Well, it was very exciting, I think, for us as coaches, for our young men, because I don't think we've had very few, and if any, had ever been to the Notre Dame campus. And of course, they're so rich in tradition and history of football. And then to get behind in the ball game like we did, and just see the character of our young men and how they hung in there and really came from behind. And again, we had some good things happen to us. They played hard. The whole afternoon, Notre Dame turned it over a couple times. We were able to capitalize, get the ball in the end zone. And it was a great feeling to walk off the field with a win. I think the coaching staff was very proud of our young men, and I think our young men were proud of themselves.
Back in the friendly confines of Williams-Brice Stadium, the Gamecocks showed that their new top 10 ranking in both major polls was no fluke as they tackled the Pirates from East Carolina. Just minutes into the game, Chris Major intercepted a Pirate pass. And Kent Haygood threw off a defender and raced 74 yards for the score. Mike Hold made an early appearance, and on his first play, he hit Ira Hillary on a 71-yard bomb. Then Hold lofted the ball into the end zone, and Chris Corley made a great catch. The 21-10 halftime lead doubled in the second half as South Carolina cruised to a 42-20 victory. Mike Hold led the team with composure and charisma, and the Pirates could only watch as 559 total yards were piled up. The defense added 4 interceptions and a fumble recovery to its total, and the offense kept on rolling. Running back Quentin Lewis hit Eric Poole for a 41-yard gain, and the rest of the afternoon went as smooth as silk. The Black Magic had seen South Carolina tie its longest win streak with a 7-0 start. Entering next week's game, they would be ranked 5th in the nation, the highest ranking in Gamecock history. Traveling to North Carolina State, where the Gamecocks had not won in 18 years, Carolina found themselves locked in a bruising battle. Able to score only 3 points the entire first half, the Gamecocks entered the second half with a 15-3 deficit. Number 7 again was called on to engineer a come-from-behind victory, and he ran the offense to perfection. But South Carolina's leading rusher, Kent Haygood, was lost for the entire season when he went down with a broken leg. Raynard Brown broke a 12-yard touchdown to trim the deficit to 5 points. But North Carolina State added a field goal. There were some big plays in the third quarter, but the Gamecocks couldn't score. Hold hit Thomas Dendy for 52 yards. Freshman All-American Carl Hill sacked the state quarterback, and Raynard Brown broke a nice run. When James Sumter and Paul Vogel stopped the state quarterback cold on a 3rd and 2, the momentum had turned. South Carolina erupted for 25 points in the fourth quarter. Every time NC State would score, the Gamecocks would answer with points of their own. Chris Corley streaked 61 yards for this touchdown. Quentin Lewis completed the 2-point conversion to Mike Hold. Then Hold kept the ball for 36 yards. Thomas Dendy put South Carolina ahead again, but NC State booted a field goal to tie the game at 28. With minutes left in the game, the Garnet and Black would have to score one more time. Thomas Dendy would not be denied as he broke a 26-yard run and then crossed the goal line with 50 seconds left in the game. The 35-28 victory kept the Magic alive. The 11th-ranked Florida State Seminoles were the next opponent in a nationally televised game. A Williams-Brice Stadium record 75,000 fans turned out anticipating a great game, and they weren't disappointed. Thomas Dendy evened the score at 7 with this run in the first quarter, and the Gamecocks never looked back. Scott Hagler added 3 more at the end of the first quarter, and then the defense took control. Playing ferociously, the Fire Ants brought their special magic to the game. FSU coach Bobby Bowden commented after the game, they had great attitude, great emotion, and great effort. If the Seminoles were surprised by the defense, then they were about to be stunned by the offense. The Gamecocks racked up 28 unanswered points. Thomas Dendy fought his way into the end zone for his second TD of the day. Mike Hold aired out a 58-yard pass, and Bill Bradshaw made a tough catch as the first half ended. On the opening kickoff of the second half, Raynard Brown put his name in the record books with this electrifying 99-yard return. Bryant Gilliard and his fellow Fire Ants terrorized the FSU quarterback as they caused turnovers in bunches. Carl Hill pounced on this fumble to set up an Alan Mitchell strike to Bill Bradshaw. Anthony Smith ran up the middle for 34 yards to set up the final 7 points of the 28-point splurge. An Alan Mitchell to Danny Smith connection. Free safety Brian Gilliard intercepted his second pass of the day. What was he doing special?
Well, mainly just playing my responsibility. Florida got behind. We figured that the only way that they could catch up or try to stay in the game was to go up top, and as a result we deepened up a little bit, and I came down with 4 interceptions.
His third interception was a beauty, but it was his record-breaking 4th interception that was a personal favorite.
Well, there's one. The quarterback dropped back. We were in 3 deep zone, and I was so far back that he had to throw the ball a long ways, and I even had a chance to backpedal, to show how far I was back. And the receiver and I both went up, and when we came down, the ball came loose, but it bounced right back in my arm. And the referee or umpire, he didn't see that happen, but he ruled it as a complete pass. So that was a great interception right there.
Before the day was out, the Gamecocks would pick off 7 Seminole passes, a school record. The impressive 38-26 victory vaulted South Carolina into its highest ranking in history, number 2 in the nation. The 10th game of the season was played at Navy Marine Corps Stadium against the Navy Midshipmen. USC forced 2 turnovers in the first quarter, but couldn't capitalize on them. The Gamecocks offense just couldn't seem to get on track as they were forced to play catch-up football the entire game. Alan Mitchell tied the score at 7 apiece. But then Navy took a page out of the Gamecocks' season-long script by scoring 31 straight points to put the game out of reach. Although Mike Holt ran for some impressive gains and threw 2 touchdown passes late in the game, the outcome was never in doubt. Navy had played tough football, and South Carolina was having an off day. What it all added up to was a disappointment for Gamecock fans. The regular season, however, would end on a triumphant note as the 9-1 Gamecocks traveled to Memorial Stadium to play arch-rival Clemson. After the Tigers had scored a touchdown in the first quarter, South Carolina opened the second quarter by driving 64 yards downfield to allow Scott Hagler to split the uprights for 3 points. James Seawright and his teammates did their best to hold the Tigers, but Clemson scored 2 more touchdowns to make the score 21-7. For Coach Morrison and his team, this was the moment of truth. Would they have the character to rebound from a 14-point deficit? The answer would come in heart-stopping fashion. Thomas Dendy ran the ball down to the 11, but when a 4th down field goal attempt missed and a flag was thrown, the coaches made a crucial decision.
Well, we were behind 21-3. I think if it had been a closer ball game, we probably wouldn't have made that decision. But we made the field goal. We had a roughing the kicker penalty. We took the penalty. It got us down. It was about 4th and 4, and we decided to go for the touchdown and called a trap play, and it got into the end zone. And instead of going in 21-6, we go in 21-10 at halftime, and we got a little momentum going into the locker room. And, you know, maybe it wasn't a great decision, but it worked, and I think it kind of gave us the momentum that we needed to come back out the second half.
Tony Guyton and Willie McEntee got the second half off to a great start as they dropped the Clemson quarterback for a safety. In the third quarter, South Carolina drove deep into enemy territory, but a field goal attempt sailed wide to the left, and the score remained 21-12. Bryant Gilliard again used a little magic to come up with an interception, and the momentum began to shift. It was the 4th quarter, and it was now or never. Hold hit Bill Bradshaw for 16. Chris Wade for 15. Then he kept the ball for 11, setting up a Scott Hagler field goal to close the gap to 21-15. But to win, the Gamecocks would have to score 1 more touchdown at extra point.
We were very confident. We got together on the sideline, the offense did, and we knew that this would be the last time we'd get the football, and that we had to have a touchdown. A field goal wouldn't do us any good, that we had to score. And we were pretty determined to do that. They knew that we had to score a touchdown to win. They knew they had to stop us, and we knew we had to score. So it was 2 forces against each other there, and we were able to score, and they weren't able to stop us. And I guess it's probably the one drive I'll remember for the rest of my life, because it was against Clemson, and I am from the state of South Carolina, and it was very important to us. And it seemed like we hadn't been able to get a sustained drive all day, and then when we really needed it, we were able to muster up enough courage and enough whatever it took to get it down the field and score.
With minutes left in the game, South Carolina was 84 yards from pay dirt. Chris Wade cut a big chunk out of that with this 36-yard reception. Quentin Lewis broke off left tackle for 16 yards. And Thomas Dendy ran around right end for 18 more. Mike Hull took the ball into the end zone behind All-American guard Del Wilkes and company to tie the score. But Scott Hagler missed the extra point. However, Clemson was flagged on the play for having 12 men on the field. Scott Hagler's second extra point attempt was as good as gold. The breathtaking 22-21 victory was the perfect end to an exhilarating season. It was the first time the Gamecocks had won at Clemson since 1970, and it was a victory to be savored.
Well, that was a great game. That was a great note to end the regular season on. To break all the tradition that they had up there, to beat them up there was one thing, but that was just a super game on both sides of the ball. We didn't play very well in the first half. In the second half, we came out and we put it all together, and we really played great ball.
1984 was a magical season. South Carolina finished in the nation's top 10 and broke every existing attendance record. James Seawright and Del Wilkes became the first native Carolinians in Gamecock history to receive consensus All-America recognition. Coach Joe Morrison was named National Coach of the Year. For all of the coaches, players, and fans, 1984 will live forever in their memories. The three Gamecock captains have their own special feelings.
Well, I guess the main thing that I would probably remember is the fact that we went 10-1 during the regular season. The first time that such great events have taken place in the university history.
It meant a lot to us, you know, especially after the Georgia game. Beating Georgia, my class had never beat Georgia before. So beating Georgia kind of boosts our morale so that we can beat those teams. And then later on we beat Notre Dame, Pittsburgh, you know. We beat, I think, 5 teams that were supposed to be national contenders. And it means a lot to me.
Even through the bad years, these people have really stuck behind us, and they've been very supportive. We expanded our stadium a few years back when we really weren't that good a football team, and we still had to expand over 20,000 seats. So they're always there, and they're always supporting us. And this year, I really feel good for them because this is something that they really deserve, and they've waited for a long time, and they've been very supportive of this football program, even through bad years, in which most of them have been bad years. So this is very special for them, and they have a right to brag and be proud and sort of stick their chest out, and I'm glad for them.
The pride of winning came from endless hours of hard work. Success never comes easily, and the 1984 Gamecocks earned their honors with a lot of heart.
I'd have to say it's a team with a lot of pride and a lot of heart. It's a team that every time they stepped out on the football field, they gave it everything they had. An example is our fire ant defense. Well, you know, they're a type that swarms, and I guess where they get that name, fire ant, is they're a swarming, hustling defense, and I think that's a character of this whole football team. Maybe not the most talented football team around, not the biggest football team around, but it's a football team that has a lot of determination and a lot of pride about itself and gives everything it's got to win.
University President Dr. James Holderman reflected on the season.
We end the football season. We look forward to next year with a fresh start, with a season that is incomparable in the university's history. It's changed a lot of things for us. It's put us on the map when we've been trying to do that in other ways. We've achieved in other ways, but so remarkably in such a short period of time we've been brought to the world's attention. Our applications for admission, inquiries about coming to the university for academic purposes are running way ahead of where they've ever run before. It's the spirit that has infected the entire university is virtually incalculable. It's something that I hope happens every year. Although Joe Morrison told me I shouldn't get used to it, we're ready to get used to it.
In 1984, a special black magic smiled upon the University of South Carolina, and the glory that these young men attained will never be forgotten.